excited. This is a webinar that we're going to be doing this evening, and we've got somebody that's going to be walking us through this webinar that is absolutely the most incredible webinar walker through I've ever met. I've had the privilege of meeting her in person and listening to her training calls on our products and doing some of these webinars with her, and I'll tell you, every time I hear her or do a webinar with her, I learn something new, and I just am so excited to be able to sit in on this again this evening. I'd like to introduce the person that's going to be doing that with us. She is our Field Communications Director, and she does presentations and trainings and webinars like you're going to be privileged to see tonight all over the country, all the time, all the way from basic training for newcomers like me, all the way up to advanced technology for the really savvy practitioner. She knows what the heck she's talking about. She's a lifelong student of life sciences. She's a certified body talk practitioner, and she's been with ZeroPoint Global for coming up on 4 years now. So please help me welcome to the call Lorraine Eldridge. Lorraine, are you there?
I am, but just a second. I have to clear to make sure I can live up to that that great build-up you just gave me, Bonnie. Thank you. Thank you very, very much. That's a good example that we'll talk about in a little bit. Gosh, it's just a delight to be here tonight with you all and be able to share this. This is a very exciting thing that hundreds and hundreds of consultants and family members of consultants, friends of consultants, and sometimes even strangers have had the advantage of this information and using the ZeroPoint Global technology to help clear subconscious emotional trauma. And this actually got started by Dr. Brad Gould. About 2 years ago, I was visiting Dr. Gould, and he suggested that perhaps upwards of some 90% of imbalances physically, emotionally, mentally in our adult life are the result of subconscious childhood trauma. And I said, well, yes, I've heard some things like that. That high, huh? He goes, sometimes higher. And he said, I've been doing some experimenting and research, and if you've seen Dr. Gould's The Science of ZeroPoint video at the ZeroPoint.com website, then you know that Dr. Gould has a great understanding of the human body and frequencies and how we work. So, of course, I'm going to listen to him. And he brought out the intention disc and the sodalite window pendant and said, using these two together has an amazing ability to help the body clear subconscious childhood trauma. And I said, gosh, that means stuff that we don't even realize is bothering us. And he just smiled, yes, Lorraine. So we began testing and researching in the field using Dr. Gould's instructions. Now, I'll tell you that Dr. Gould still uses his same instructions, I believe, and that was to hold the intention disc in the left hand, the sodalite window pendant in the right hand, and to clear. However, I found that there's as many different ways to do it as there are individuals doing it, and all with wonderful results. So we're going to have some fun and talk about that and see how you can use the ZeroPoint technology to bring a whole new level of wellness. It certainly has made a difference in my life, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. So let's have some fun and talk about this simple way to wellness. First, does our body have memory? We know trauma can be stored from emotional events in the body, and that this disrupts normal, healthy cellular function. This can come from anything, from old memories of war to an injury that we had, to anger that we felt for something, to an accident that we were in, a part of our body that we injured or broke. Trauma can be stored in our body from these events. How do we know this? Well, medical science, there's plenty of books, newspapers, articles, you can Google it. Organ transplant recipients report stories of feeling very differently after some organ transplants, particularly heart transplants. But people who never had a craving for certain types of food or activities found that they did, and then found it linked back to the person that the organ had come from. So there's a lot written about this, and it's become accepted that organs can carry memory. Massage therapists have known this. When I had my first massage, I don't know, maybe 40 years ago, the massage therapist handed me a paper in the beginning when I filled out the forms, and on that paper, when I read it later, it talked about the fact that during a massage, it's possible because cells and muscles hold memory, the cells and the muscles hold memory, and you may experience some sort of an emotional release or have a memory of an incident that had happened or an old injury. So I learned about it there. Physical therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, and other healthcare practitioners, there's a general understanding now that we can store trauma in our body that can affect our health and wellness today. Now, I'm not going to read this to you, but I suspect we'll provide this PowerPoint to you, and I want you to have this information. It's basically what I just told you. And then it also discusses that what is the problem with trauma being stored in the body? Gosh, if I don't remember it, that's good, right? You know, and sometimes we often say that about children, you know, oh, they're so young, they'll never remember that when something traumatic happens in the family or in the neighborhood. But in reality, we do receive those memories, and they often get stored in our body if we aren't able to process them at that time. And what happens is it disrupts cellular communication. It is not coherent energy. It disrupts the body's ability to communicate the way that it should. So it does have an effect that's known now on our general health. We can clear subconscious emotional trauma. We found that using the sodalite window pendant and the intention disk that we have been able, with some very simple techniques and then many others on the fly, simply using these two products to be able to help clear trauma from our body. You can use this anytime. You can use the clear set if you're just standing up. I generally had the sodalite window pendant around my neck and the intention disc in my pocket, so I could very easily just reach one hand up and one hand into my pocket and clear. Sitting, you can relax and sit if you want, or you can lie down. Many people like to lie down and take this time to relax. So how to clear subconscious trauma. This is something that you don't know, right? Subconscious. So you hold the intention disc and the window pendant, one in each hand. Now, often it's the left hand for the ID, the intention disc, and the right hand for the SWP, I call it. That's the sodalite window pendant. But it's okay if you feel that you want to do it another way. That's fine. And then just say, please clear subconscious trauma from my birth, or maybe from ages 1 to 2, or you could say, please clear subconscious trauma surrounding this hurt knee, or any other imbalance that you are experiencing, because maybe you don't know what trauma might be behind that. So you're asking to clear the subconscious trauma that could be behind this imbalance that you were experiencing. So then just relax and gently hold that clearing request in your mind. Now wait, 12 to 20 minutes. People have told me they've gone that long, until you feel some sort of a change. Maybe you'll sigh a little, or your tummy will rumble, or you might yawn. You might feel a little movement, a little energy, a little movement in the area where you have the imbalance, where you're asking to clear, even though you're not holding the technology on or in that area. So if you don't feel anything, it's okay. It's okay. Just wait a few minutes anyway, up to 20 minutes before you move on to another area. It's still working, whether you can feel it or not. Now, how to clear conscious trauma. Now, this is something that we might realize we should have or could have trauma from. For instance, an accident that we might have experienced, an accident that we saw as a child that we still remember, the death of a family member, a pet, the loss of a best school friend. I mean, there's so many things that we remember that we can clear conscious trauma for. And you do it basically the same way. Please clear the trauma from the accident, or from my pet's death, or from my divorce, or an argument we got into at work, just wanting to clear the trauma around that. And just relax and gently hold that thought. Again, just wait a few minutes. And if you don't feel anything, it's okay. Just wait a good 20 minutes before you move on to another area. You can also use the intention disc all by itself to clear trauma, and many people are doing this now. When something traumatic comes to mind, something that doesn't feel quite right to you, or something that you know is trauma, you can help release that stored trauma by holding the intention disc. And usually people do this in the left hand. That's a very strong source of energy coming into our body. And asking, clear the trauma surrounding these noisy dogs next door. And maybe that sounds simple, but that could cause a tightness in the solar plexus, an upsetness in the stomach, because you don't want to listen to that, right? So it's causing a disconnect in the body. Try clearing it and see how the experience changes. But remember, you're clearing it in you. You're not clearing it in the dogs. It's always cleared within us. So this also works great for fresh trauma, like I just expressed. Give it a try. So how does it work? How does the ZeroPoint Intention Disk and the Sodalite Window Pendant clear trauma? Well, they don't, actually. We are doing this, right? Clearing trauma is a natural function. We hold trauma only because we aren't able to process it at that time of the event. Now, it could be many reasons. We could be ill. Maybe we're pressed for time. We had an injury, an accident, got terrible news, but instead of taking the time to process it, to release that grief, to soothe that pain or soreness that happened to us, we don't take time. Maybe we're just not emotionally mature enough to handle it. It gets stored, and it gets stored as incoherent waveform that disrupts. It's a memory that is like static, and it disrupts communication. So the ZeroPoint Global Intention Disk and the Sodalite Window Pendant carry natural blueprint frequencies that match our body. It brings it into a greater energetic balance. And when we're energetic balance, we can clear ourselves by focusing gently on clearing subconscious or conscious trauma. So here's what people say. We have some people on the line who have agreed to share their experience with it, and I want you to know that we do have so many testimonies, and I hope you'll take time to read some of them, please, on the website. And right now I would like to welcome Eileen to the line. Eileen, are you with us?
I am. I had to take myself off mute. Hi, Lorraine. Can you hear me?
We can hear you fine. Thank you, Eileen.
You're welcome. You're welcome. The story that I wanted to share was an experience that I had when back in January of this year. I had experienced a healing session with a practitioner that I love to work with, and my body went through a pretty nasty detox involving my gastrointestinal system, my stomach and stuff. And it wiped me out, and I was kind of laying in bed for a couple of days. And laying in bed for a couple of days, my legs started to ache. And then I started getting a full-blown sciatic pain, that nerve that comes off the spine and goes into the tushy area, the buttocks, and down the leg. And that pain would, come and go, and without warning. And no matter what I did with it, and I've been doing energetic healing for 17 years plus, and I have a lot of tools that are available to me, and I tried everything. I tried essential oils. I tried a biomat that someone loaned me. I had healing sessions. And for the life of me, I could not shift this discomfort, and I couldn't sleep. It was very distressing. And after about 4 days, it occurred to me, it's like one of those, I should have had a V8. I don't know why I did not use my intention disc and sodalite pendant. They were sitting there lurking in my house. And I decided, this is ridiculous. This is emotional. This is old. I need to release this, and I choose to. So I sat in my living room with my intention disk in my left hand and my sodalite pendant in my right hand, and I set the intention that whatever emotions were connected to this, whatever the frequencies of those emotions were, that I, with grace and ease and willingly, release them, that I allow them to transmute back to the love from which they've come, which is my belief system. And I was shocked at how almost instantaneously the pain shifted. And even more shocked, no matter how much I use these products, but I was even more shocked that it didn't come back. It was that simple. It didn't take 12 to 20 minutes. It literally happened almost spontaneously. And it's like my little magic that happened, but what I know is it's not magic at all. It is truly an energetic dynamic. It's quantum physics at its best, and it just makes so much sense. And as a result, and even before that, because I have a private practice doing energetic healing, I've used these tools with every client that I put on the table, every client I do a reading with. That's just part of the process now. So we utilize these tools now for whether it's a conscious issue, as Lorraine said, or whether it's a subconscious one that we don't know about, and clear the energy, which just brings us so much more into more balance. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to share. Thanks so much, Lorraine.
Oh, Eileen, thank you very much. That's wonderful. It's just delightful to hear that. Thank you. I think we have so many wonderful stories like this, and it's going to be fun to share them on subsequent webinars too. Do we have Rick on the line with us? I know he has a special story.
I'm here, Lorraine.
Thank you. Please go ahead.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for having me. I'm grateful to be here on this, to share this on this topic. As you know, I had a really personal experience with this, and about a year ago, I was involved in a balcony crash where I shattered my wrist, and I've told people since then it was really the scariest thing that ever happened to me, and there was one surgery with a plate and 8 screws, and then this last May I had another surgery to remove all of that because I didn't want the metal in my body. And I went through months of physical therapy. I regained about 80% of my mobility, and I was then released, to my surprise, by the physical therapist. And he said, the rest is up to me. He said it's up to time, and it's kind of a toss-up whether I would get it back to 100%. And I really didn't like those odds, honestly, so I went to a chiropractor that's very popular here in my area. He's also an applied kinesiologist. He's an amazing guy. And he was the first person, actually, to tell me about this, clearing the emotional trauma surrounding my accident. And we measured my mobility in his office, and he used a few different techniques with me. He used something called tapping and a couple other things. And to my amazement, I was able to see in one session with him that my mobility slightly improved. So I remembered the experience you can have with the intention disk and the sodalite pendant. And so when I got home, well, one more thing, he actually had told me that the trauma of the experience has an effect on it, and it has an effect on my mobility, which to me seems so outrageous. And he said that it contributed to recreating the experience over and over, and it was subconsciously, and it's so I could be right about it, which I thought was amazing. And he said that if I cleared my emotions around the accident, it would aid in my recovery. And so then I went home and I got the intention disk and the sodalite pendant, and I followed the protocol that's on the website, and I really only had to do it once, and it was amazing in that one experience how I could measure, I would say, from 85 to 95% of my mobility returned, like a solid 10% in one. I sat there with it for about 20 minutes, and I actually focused on the accident, and which was, difficult, and it became easier and easier, and suddenly I became a bit apathetic about it, honestly. And so I felt like I was finished. I felt complete, and I put them down, and I measured my mobility again, and I was able to move my hand in a way that, in my wrist in a way that I wasn't able to do just in one setting. So I've been doing it. I don't know if you need to do this or not. Maybe you'll share this with us. But I've done it. I do it about once a month now, around with that experience, and it definitely had. And I never would have believed it in a million years, honestly, because I'm so left-brained. But it definitely had, whatever I did there with that, definitely had an effect on my mobility and my stiffness for sure.
Thank you so much, Rick, for sharing that. And, well, I guess if you think you need to keep doing it every month, you do. Generally, what I have found is more like Eileen's case, that it is gone. However, in some things with me emotionally, not so much the other imbalances like you're talking about, flexibility or the pain that you might have been experiencing, but emotionally, sometimes I might have to do those more than once. And I think it's because some things are in layers. We release what's comfortable to us, because one thing I can share is that I haven't heard of anybody saying this is a bad experience for them. It's generally a very gentle and easy experience. So thank you so much, Rick. Thank you. I really appreciate it. And we have Carol, who has a wonderful story to share with us, too. Carol, are you here?
I am. Can you hear me okay?
We can. Thank you so much, Carol. Please share your story.
Thank you. Well, this actually happened on September 13th. I don't think I'll ever forget that date. About 10 or 15 years ago, I had an experience happened to me. It was a gradual experience over a couple of months where the metatarsals fell in my feet and they sat on my nerves. And I went to doctor after doctor trying to find a way to, take care of that issue. And their only answer was, well, we can put steel rods in your feet. Your toes will never bend again. Well, that didn't work for me because I owned a dance studio at the time and I was teaching 6 days a week. And so I told him, I said, well, I'll just live with the pain. And so that's what I've done. I actually went through a whole year or so where I couldn't walk at all, and I would pull myself along the floor in a rolling chair to be able to work with my students, and so it was a challenge financially and business-wise and personal-wise, and so anyway, since that time I've battled my way back so that I can actually wear a shoe. I couldn't wear a shoe at that time. And walking and standing was almost an impossibility. But I've worked my way back with other modalities, seeing other alternative health therapists and products from other companies, where I was actually back where I could stand for 15 to 20 minutes and actually walk for about the same amount of time before I started having that unbearable pain. And so anyway, so when I heard about these products, I thought, well, you know what? I don't know anything about this, but I'll try anything for my feet to get some ease from this pain and so forth. And so I did exactly what you said, Lorraine. I went to bed with the intention disc in my left hand, and I had my soda light pendant on, and so I was wearing it, and so I just held on to it with my right hand. And I started thinking about my feet and saying, to please, my intention, please clear any trauma from this incident that has happened with my feet. Please clear any trauma from my feet, anything in my childhood, anything that's happened, so to take the trauma from the cells in my feet. And within just a few minutes, now I don't expect that everybody's going to have an experience like this, because this was really dramatic, but it was like somebody had turned on the burner on a gas stove, and it just went woof, and all of a sudden in my mind's eye I could see a white ball of energy in each hand and on top of each foot. Oh, I forgot to tell you that, and I don't know where I got this idea from, but I did it. I had a pair of socks on my feet, and I had two of the ZeroPoint pendants, so I tucked one of those on top of my metatarsals inside of my socks. Before I went to bed, so I actually had 4 products on it. Maybe this is why I had the gas burner effect. I don't know. But it was pretty amazing. The feeling of energy was so intense. It was like, and I said, oh, my gosh, God help me to hold on to this feeling of energy because it's so intense. And so obviously I knew something was happening. And it lasted for about 5 or 6 minutes, I'm guessing, because, of course, it's dark. I can't see a clock or anything. And I'm focusing on what's going on. And so then it went away, and I'm going, okay, and went to sleep. I had a great night's sleep. When I got up the next morning and got out of bed, I could feel the texture of the carpet. I normally don't feel the texture of the carpet. I don't feel anything. It's like a neuropathy, I guess, where I have nerve damage on the soles of my feet, and my whole feet. And so anyway, when I got dressed, then I put my shoes and socks on. I could feel the texture of my socks. I could feel the sides of my shoes. I could wiggle my toes. Normally, before, my toes are like little web feet, little web toes like a duck, and so when I move my toes, all of my toes move. Now, I can wiggle them individually now, and they're separated. The only other thing that ever gave me this kind of relief was having a reflexology foot session, but it would only last for a couple of days. I have not had my feet go back to that moment where they were before since September 13th. Every day, I can still feel the texture of my socks. I can still wiggle my toes. I constantly feel like this little, instead of a constant feeling of pain in my feet, I have a constant feeling of energy and life in my feet instead of them feeling like just little, wooden shoes on the ends of my ankles. It's not to say that the pain is completely gone. If I'm on my feet for a long period of time, I still have that issue. I can set that off again, but it's a totally different thing now, and I can last for so much longer. So I'm so excited about those products. Thank you for letting me share.
Oh gosh, Carol, that's very exciting, and it's heartwarming what a difference it can make, and it's really us doing that clearing. So those are some ways that the technology was used to clear in reaction to an imbalance. We also suggest clearing subconscious, and I'll just tell you my first experience, because naturally if Dr. Gould is going to suggest something and we're going to send it out to the field for a few people for research, I'd want to try it, right? So I did. I was in Atlanta at the time, and I went back to my hotel room, and I laid down in the bed, and I had did just what he said, 12 minutes, 12 seconds, intention disk in the left hand, soda light in the right hand, and I just asked to clear a subconscious childhood trauma. I didn't do it for a period of time, which a lot of people do, and it's wonderful to do it in slow periods of time, and I have gone back and done that. But this particular time, that's all I did. And I laid there for quite a while, and I felt just fine, rather peaceful, relaxed, and didn't really feel much. And I glanced at the clock, and I could see that enough time had gone by, so I just said, well, I guess that's that. And all of a sudden, I felt a pain hit my heart, boom, and it was sharp. And I just knew it had something to do with what I'd done. And I reached out and grabbed a frequency disc and just laid it against my chest. It happened to be an 8-inch one. And it immediately subsided. And I lay there and relaxed. And I thought, wow, I must have been clearing something from my heart. And then little tears rolled down out of each eye, all the way down my cheeks into my hairline and my ears. And I knew I had cleared something deep, some deep type of trauma, and I had no real experience of it. I didn't have any great feelings of sadness or grief or anything like that. And that's generally been the experience. Now, some people have said, oh, I've seen little flashes of pictures go by or images, and other people have had certain memories. But most people have said, or all people have actually said, that it's not a traumatic experience. So what about making our dreams come true? Is it possible that subconscious doubts, fears, or maybe old programming is holding us back from achieving our dreams. Clearing subconscious trauma surrounding goals and dreams can help bring us into balance with our own desires. You would do this the same way. Simply hold the intention disc and the sodalite window pendant, hold them in the hands in the way that you're most comfortable with, and ask to clear any trauma surrounding this thing that you want so much, this thing that you're so excited, this great news that you just heard that might be a possibility. Because so often there's doubts and fears lurking behind sabotaging us. And you'll be surprised how this can make a difference, because clearing trauma can really make a difference in how you feel and what you can achieve. The ZeroPoint Global Clear Set. Use it for greater wellness, wealth, and wisdom. Thank you so much, everybody, for joining me tonight. It's such a pleasure to share this with you. I'm going to give it back to you, Bonnie.
Wow. Well, thank you, Lorraine. I'll tell you what, I'm sitting here just, my head is just spinning, because I just can't help but just feel so blessed that we've got a company, ZeroPoint Global, that has brought us these products that can do what we just heard, that can clear not only conscious trauma, which Rick and Carol and Eileen shared with us so eloquently, but subconscious trauma as well. That is just amazing to me, and I feel so very thankful that we've got ZeroPoint Global and these products. But I'll tell you what, I'm also very thankful, Lorraine, that we have you. Because without you out there to tell us what these things are and what they can do and show us how to use them, we would have probably a whole lot harder row to hoe. So I am very thankful for you and for your being here tonight and sharing with us that amazing intention disc and sodalite pendant. Thank you so much. That was amazing. Just
You're welcome.
Absolutely amazing. And